All right, so welcome back to part 2 of our NCCP Refresher 101. We're moving on to a different portion of it. This is why I've broken this up. Part of it is for video length, but also I've broken it into segments. So we covered driving safety, and now we're going to go into some physical provider safety. So just real quick on this one. This is out of, I believe it's a Brady book. And one picture says 1,000 words. On the left, she's looking to hurt herself, right? Feet are spread front to back. They're not giving a nice steady balance point. She's bending forward at the waist and her back is bent. She's reaching away from her body and now she's going to use her back. So this is a disaster waiting to happen. On the right side, she's squatting, her back is straight, and the items are close into her body. This is one of the best ways to avoid hurting yourself. Do not reach away from you to lift. When I do an EMT class or an initial class of any sort, I have my students take their textbook. Granted, they're bigger textbooks nowadays, but they're not that heavy in reality. And I just have them hold them straight out from their bodies and hold them there for 10 seconds or so. And I ask them where they start to feel that strain, and they feel it in their lower back. We know that we cannot always lift appropriately in the field. But if you know how to lift safely, then the majority of the times, your stretchers, because we still have services that don't have power stretchers, then you're going to do this correctly, and you're going to limit your exposure to injury. It is safer to push than pull. You can't push grandma down the hallway, though, on the floor, right? Sometimes grandma's wedged in between the toilet and the wall, okay? Get some 9-foot straps. Go underneath her legs, her knees, go underneath her shoulders. Get yourself above her and get to the point where you can squat just a little bit and then stand up straight, take some of the weight, her weight off the floor, and then you can slide her out easier, okay, as an example. Now, EMS1.com in November of 2012 had an article. Excuse me. And Dan White, the author, said facts are undeniable. We have a high rate of back injuries in EMS. And, you know, look at how he's lifting the stretcher. My back hurts just looking at that. His quotes are, statistics are disturbing. Now, I've been doing this for 36 years now, okay? And I've had 2 back injuries that have cost me lost time. And when I say lost time, I'm talking 6 to 8 weeks. You know, oh, I'll go home because my back is sore, but I'm back to work the next day. I couldn't even tell you how many times that's happened. But lost time, 2. But 1 in 4 of us suffer a career-ending injury in their first 4 years on the job. According to the National Association of EMTs, almost 1 in 2 providers have sustained a back injury. And of all injuries in EMS, lifting is 62% of them, and strains are 78% of all workers' comp paid out. 3 weeks ago, I had one of the worst single hours of my career at work. And I'm sure my bosses are very happy with me. I was on a cardiac arrest. I was second truck in helping out. My partner wanted to go help. And we were in a hoarder's house. And it was nasty. And he had a GI bleed, upper GI bleed, and the floor was covered, and he was covered, and it was hoarding. And there was no way I was kneeling next to this person on the floor. I couldn't anyways. There was just no place for me to go. I was literally like at the feet. I asked the other medic who was running the call what you'd like me to do. And so she handed me the IO drill. I bent over the arm of a couch to get to his tibia, put the IO in, stood up, handed off the capped, you know, the IO needle has that little triangular shaped sharps thing that comes with it. So I'd safely capped it, handed that and the drill back because I wasn't setting it down anyplace, and then bent over to push an epi and flush that. Then I bent over to secure it to the leg, and then I bent over to hook up a pressure bag normal saline, and when I stood up, fourth time, that was it. I strained my back, and my back was sore for a day or two. It certainly could have been worse. So at this point, they want to transport the code, and we've got to go upstairs, and there's a bunch of young folks there, young folks being your early 20s folks. And so I backed off and said, hey, you guys need to lift. I can't help you with this one. And I took some equipment out to the truck. Truck was parked on a little bit of an angle. I opened the door, back door. I bent over to pick something up. The door slammed shut, or tried to slam shut, hit me in the head, banged my teeth together, chipped a tooth. Great. So the back injury is a common injury. Chipping a tooth, not so much. And on my way to the next call, I slipped on the ice and tore my knee up, and had a lateral, an LCL tear, kind of a minor one, and luckily didn't miss more than a shift. But back injuries, very common, okay? EMTs and paramedics are not taught how to lift correctly. I want you to think about your EMT, AEMT, or paramedic program for a minute. Did you actually move patients during your class? Yes, there's a chapter, I don't know, 5, 6, 7, whatever it is, about lifting and moving patients. How many of you actually were shown how to do this? Went down into the bay, lifted a patient on a backboard, or one of your classmates on a backboard, lifted the stretcher up into the truck, took a patient up or down the stairs on a scoop stretcher and on a stair chair. Happens very rarely. I have a lot of AEMTs. We do this even though they're AEMTs and they're supposed to know how to do this already. When I have them in that class, we do it. And a lot of them say they were never taught how to do that. Okay, so get some advice from a professional. And I'm not talking a bodybuilder. I'm not talking a weightlifter. A lot of them have bad habits, and they don't know how to lift any better than we do, and they hurt themselves. Find a physical therapist, especially one that specializes in sports medicine, and call your hospital. Talk to their physical therapy department. A lot of these hospitals will send people out to help us on their coin because we're part of their system. Have them come out and do one of your Wednesday night EMS trainings, okay? Not only to learn how to lift safely, but also a few just small exercises that you can do to help you prevent back injuries. So after my second 6 or 8 week back injury, instead of my regular physical therapist that I saw before, I went to a different physical therapy place that had a sports medicine person, and he taught me some different exercises. Standing against the wall with a ball, one of the big balls behind your back, and doing squats against that ball, using that ball to balance on and lift opposite arms and opposite legs. And all these things work the smaller muscles in your back that things like deadlifts don't do. You can go out in your garage and do deadlifts all day. You're working on your major muscles. You need to do some stuff to strengthen the smaller ones to help take some of that stress off so that you have more strength in your back. Next, spend a little time in the gym. Absolutely. Get in better shape. Work out a little bit. You don't have to go to a gym. You don't have to go to Planet Fitness or your local grunt and jerk place, okay? Push-ups and sit-ups and deep knee bends in your basement, in your bedroom. Just a little bit every day to make yourself a little bit stronger, because you're a little bit stronger every day, you're less likely to hurt yourself. There's this guy, he's a former Delta Force Sergeant Major, Pat McNamara, who's kind of an interesting fellow, but he also does a lot of exercise, workout, physical conditioning videos. His and I have no affiliation with him, but he's T-Max is his site. And he does not do typical bodybuilding and weightlifting. He does a lot of um, twisting, turning, real life type things that will make you stronger for every day. And the dude, he's my age, he's 54, 55 years old, and this dude's jacked. Not bodybuilder jacked, but unbelievably healthy, strong, good shape. And he's got some really good advice for this sort of thing. But what he says on this everyday thing is, if you cloned yourself today, can you kick your clone's ass tomorrow? In other words, if you do a little bit every day you get a little bit better. It's kind of an interesting way to look at it. Because if you can't move your patients, you can't do your job. And if you can't do 15 sit-ups, you can't protect your back. Your abdominal muscles make up a huge portion of your core strength, both the front wall of your abdomen as well as the obliques, the side muscles. If you can't do 15 sit-ups, you can't protect your back, okay? You may not be able to do 15. That's okay. Start with 1 or 2, right? Do an extra one every day until you can do 15, okay? 5 years ago, I don't think I could have done 15 sit-ups. And now I can do 75 to 100 in one sitting, okay? I did not do that overnight, though. Eventually, you're going to get hurt. And unfortunately, when you get hurt, there's also a very good chance that you're going to hurt your partner and or your patient. Athletes train for what they do. We have to train for what we do. Lose some weight. If you're 10, 20, 40, 50 pounds overweight, much less some of us who are 100 to 150 pounds overweight, all your patients are that much heavier. And your partners are pulling against that extra weight also. 20 years ago, and remember, this was written in, 2011? So now we're talking 30 years ago. Morbidly obese EMS workers were kind of a rarity. And now it's pretty normal. We all know somebody who's 100 to 150 pounds overweight in this job. We all know somebody like that, okay? Or more even, okay? Now, again, continuing with Dan White, the smart money is to take real food with you. Oh, it's super easy to pull up to a drive-through and get a Big Mac or a double quarter pounder with cheese or a Wendy's, whatever, okay? Super easy to do that. It's super easy to stop and buy a sub or to buy some slices of pizza while your partner's pumping gas into the ambulance. Take a lunchbox or small cooler, okay? Proteins, vegetables. If you just do this at work alone, even if you eat crap at home, if those 2 24-hour shifts a week, you eat better, you're still going to feel better overall, okay? 4 fast food meals a week, they say, is probably more calories than most people in the developing world eat in a month, okay? When you go to the grocery store, shop around the outside edge. That's where the refrigeration is, and that's where the fresh food is, okay? This guy, McNamara, also talks about this. He says, the real food is on the outer edge. The processed products are in the middle in the aisles. He said the only reason you dive into the middle of a grocery store is to get coffee and spices and then get the hell out, okay? Get your fresh meat, your fresh chicken, your fresh fish and seafood, your veggies, your frozen veggies, as opposed to canned, because your canned foods, although they're veggies, they're full of chemicals for longevity, and it makes them a product, okay? This one I find funny. He said he had back pain for 20 years, chronic back pain. He got divorced, the back pain went away. So apparently stress in your life will contribute to back pain. I'm not recommending divorces for everyone. I just thought that was interesting. Now, left picture, that's me in 2016. Bottom right picture is me currently. This picture was actually about 2 years ago, but 150 pounds difference, because I realized that I wasn't going to live to see grandchildren. I'd already been in the hospital a couple of times with chest pain. SVT once. Sure, I had stress tests and whatnot that said, oh no, you're in perfect shape. And then why do I keep having chest pain? And why do I keep having, tachycardias? I went into the hospital once with SVT because it wouldn't break. I'd been in SVT a bunch of times and could break it. So how did I do this? Everything I just talked about, I also took advantage of bariatric surgery and had gastric bypass. You can have gastric bypass, eat like shit, and not lose weight. Okay, you can eat M&Ms all day and not lose weight. In order to lose weight and to keep the weight off, which I've done very successfully, is I've had to change my eating habits. Okay, if you are in that 35 to plus percent BMI that qualify for bariatrics, I recommend you look into it. I wish I did this 5 years earlier. I'm very healthy now. I had uncontrolled blood pressure. It was controlled with meds, but if I missed my meds a couple of days, I ran out, for example, my pressure would spike to 220 over 110, and I'd have nosebleeds, and it would look like an axe murder. My cholesterol was out of control. My liver function tests were high because I had a fatty liver, etc. All these things, and now my labs are 30% of what they were. My good cholesterol is 60% better. My bad cholesterol is 60% better also, okay? So I highly recommend you look into it. I couldn't do, at 325 pounds, I couldn't do 25 sit-ups or 15 sit-ups. I couldn't do any push-ups. I can't imagine now trying to lift a 150-pound rucksack. Because literally that's what I was doing. I was carrying an extra 150 pounds on my 5'11" frame every minute of every day. I couldn't sleep flat without my CPAP. I went off CPAP after this. I went off all my blood pressure meds. They had me on diabetic meds. My A1C was borderline, but it was kind of to help prevent it because I was insulin resistant, they said. Boom, nothing. I'm on meds for GERD only to help prevent reflux because I'm at risk for it with gastric bypass, and I take vitamins. Asthma meds, I still take a pill, and I still do a discus once a day, but my inhaler use is almost non-existent. At 325, I was going through an inhaler every 2 weeks. The year after my surgery, after I lost my weight, I should say, I went through one inhaler over a year. So significant health benefits. And now every patient I lift is 150 pounds lighter. Okay. And I've got a grandson now, so I've lived to see a grandson. And I'm telling you absolutely without doubt, I don't think that would have happened. So do what it takes to get in a little bit better shape. Also with my gastric bypass, I walked a lot. I couldn't walk half a mile when I started. And within, I think it was 3 months, I was walking 4 miles every day. Baby steps, but look into some of the things that will help. Gastric bypass, sleeve, etc., those sorts of other bariatric surgeries, the numbers are 80% versus 5%. And what I mean by that is at the 5-year mark, if you've had bariatric surgery, the success rate is 80% for people to keep the weight off. Whereas if all you did was diet and exercise alone, the number is only 5%. My whole life, I dropped 50 pounds, put on 60, dropped 70 pounds, put on 80, okay? So baby steps, get in better shape, protect yourself. Lifting equipment in EMS. We are seeing more and more bariatric patients. Now, at 325 pounds, technically, I was a bariatric patient. Some services have 275-pound rules where, they have to use specific equipment for this. Winches and ramps are great. In New Hampshire, for example, the state of New Hampshire got some funding, and they put bariatric equipment out around the state. Dairy Fire or Hampton Fire, I think have some. I know Conway Fire does. but around the state. And if you are your Action ambulance and you're an OSPE, you can call Conway Fire and they'll bring the bariatric equipment out to you in their truck. As far as ramps and winches and the bariatric stretcher. Now, top left, we see this big tarp, heavily reinforced tarp with 10 handles. I love these things. You can log roll a 700-pound patient under it, put 10 people on it, and you're only lifting 70 pounds each. Well, where am I going to get the 10 people? Well, 1 or 2 engine companies and an ambulance company, and you've got your people. A lot of our volunteer systems, you know, you can put out a second tone or two and you can typically get more people to help. Don't hurt yourself. You're laying on the ground next to this 700-pound person. Now there's 2 patients. Okay, you're not doing yourself any good. Highly recommend these. This thing is the greatest thing since sliced bread for transferring patients from a bed to a bed, stretcher to a stretcher, whatever it might be. Picture a body bag that's permanently sealed with some sort of a gel inside of it. You log roll the patient up, slide this underneath them, and then a 400-pound patient, you can pull from one stretcher to the next stretcher with one hand. Phenomenal piece of equipment. You can keep it in your ambulance under the bench, in a compartment, whatever it is. A lot of our hospitals don't have these. A lot of our hospitals now don't even have hover mats, and I don't quite understand that. But if you've got a system that's got a hover mat, call ahead and say, hey, we're going to need a hover mat to move this patient. Or buy a slip and just have it with your truck all the time. These tracked stretchers, I remember the first time I saw one, I thought, oh my God, this thing's phenomenal. This one happens to be a power stair chair, and it's amazing. So the tracks on a non-powered one will allow the patient to be lowered down the stairs. It's weight resistant. The more weight there is, the more resistance is applied to those tracks. This powered one, you can see at the top, there's a little cord that goes up to some buttons, will actually lower. You can go forward, backwards, right? Crawl up and down the stairs with it. I don't know how much they cost, but I know that my little town of New Durham, when they bought their new ambulance a year or so ago, they had this as part of the ambulance package. So it was built into the total price, because the way their budget works is their funding for the ambulance comes out of their billing department, out of their billing budget. Equipment has to be approved separately. So they just had it built into the quote. It came with power stair chair and a power stretcher. So that's one way to look at it, or try, you know, to work your way around it. But if you're a boss, you're a chief, you know, 10 years ago, OSHA applied $15,000 as the standard figure for each back pain injury. So my back injury the other day, which was really nothing, got assigned a $15,000 rate, because some of these are career ending. So you figure one of these power stair chairs might run you $5,000. That's 3 back injuries that you prevented. That's 45 grand. A power stretcher that's 15 or 20,000. That's 1 back injury. Okay, so highly recommend these things. You've got a 5-year-old monitor, and your medics are bitching and complaining because, oh, the new Philips will do this, 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 and this, and it's got video laryngoscopes on it and all that. Yeah, that's great. But what's going to make a bigger difference? You've got a perfectly good X series. You can wait another year. Buy some safety equipment. All right, we'll take a break now. Part 3, we'll move on to the next.